Afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today, Wednesday, September 10th, 2025, for this board workshop. It is 5:30, and I'm calling the meeting to order. We do not have any public comments, and we are going to go ahead and pass it over to Dr. Gutierrez for item number 3.
Yes. The district's financial advisors, Estrada Hinojosa, will provide an informational update on the proposed fiscal year 2025-2026 tax rate in the context of a long-term bond capacity and facilities planning. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Lorena Garcia, our Deputy Superintendent for Business and Operation, to introduce our guest from Estrada Hinojosa, who will be making this presentation. And this item is for information purposes only. So, Ms. Garcia.
Yes, everyone. Good evening. With us tonight from Estrada Hinojosa is Dr. Miguel de los Santos. We also have with us Dr. Angel Magallanes and Mr. Bobby Escamilla, and they will be providing a PowerPoint presentation to the board where they will discuss our tax rate as well as possible bonding capacity scenarios. So please welcome, gentlemen, to the podium.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Gutierrez. I'm doing a little introduction, and then I'm going to pass it on to my colleagues. June 24th was, I think, the last meeting that you all had before your vacation. And I presented to you and talked to you about two things. One was that you needed to make a decision whether you're going to have an election in November or in May. And then the second thing that I talked to you about was that the state was still pending, your values were still pending, and the use of a fund balance that you have was still pending. So after all of that has settled and we have all that information, we have some final, I guess you could call projected final numbers for you. The numbers, the analysis is more certain on the INS side in particular. You might remember that as we went around making presentations prior to the summer, we were talking about in the INS tax rate 0.1616, which is the current tax rate. In other words, trying to maintain there. Well, we've developed two options. One is has that downward pressure that we suspected down to 13 cents using fund balance, using the new state guidelines and so on. And that will afford the 13 cents as opposed to the 1616 will afford you $220 million. So we're gonna describe that option to you. The second option will take you from those 13 cents, phase you in over a period of 3 years from 27, 28, and 29 to 1616. And that will buy you $290 million, which is what we have been discussing with you previously. So in effect, if there's a decision to be made, not tonight, of course, but a decision to be made is for you all to mull those two options and then decide whether you want to, and then get some more information from these guys and then make a decision at a future date. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good evening, Bobby Villarreal with Estrada Hinojosa. Yeah, so just as a matter of background, so the way we've massaged your tax rate the last few years is that we've been prepaying some debt over the last few years. And so essentially, about a few years ago, we were thinking we were going to have like 7 more years of debt. This is it. This is the last payment. So right now, there's a fund balance, an INS fund balance that's there, plus the 13 pennies we're going to use. So that'll extinguish all your debt. So essentially, the opportunity in May to go up to the voters to retain those INS pennies is in your hands or the voters' hands, and that's what we're talking about today. So essentially, if there's a bond passed, then we can retain at least 13 for now, and then grow it into 16 as compressions and other things occur with the state. So right now, you'll notice that the tax rate history, like we were mentioning, since 2017, you were at 115. And it's progressively gone down to 99.66 right now. So this coming year, you're adopting 93, so you're dropping about 3 on the M&O and 3 on the INS. And so that's the point at which we're at right now. So I think right now this is what it's going to look like, the state compression plus the Vader that you have. So that's the total rate. So again, you've had your committee, I believe, with the facilities, looking at all the projects, and I'm sure they exceed the number we're talking about, but it is the number that I guess is most feasible. So right now, I think what we want to do is just go over some options, and I'll point it out to you right now, but there's a couple options we want to show you, but I'll let Angel drop into how we arrived at these and how we're going to, I guess what we're going to decide today. Or not, it doesn't have to be decided today, but something you want to chew on as we move forward.
Thank you, Bobby. Yes, as just mentioned, you have two tax rates to adopt, an INS tax rate and an M&O tax rate. The M&O tax rate, a portion of that is dictated by the state, the maximum compressed rate, the MCR, in addition to an enrichment level pennies, which you all have maximized with the Vader. So you have that M&O tax rate already set. And now you have the INS tax rate as well. One of the things that we want to point out, in either both option A or B, the tax rate for fiscal year 25-26 will be at 13 cents. So it's moving forward. How do we move forward with that 13 cents? Do we maintain with the tax rate that we have on the INS side, or do we go in phases and phase that in to 16 cents? In either case, we're going to be at the same tax rate of 93.22. So that's what we want to focus on, the total tax rate. When you are, as a homeowner, you see your bill, your tax rate, you see that total tax rate. It's not broken up into multiple components. It's a total tax rate of 93.22. And that's what we're going to look at maintaining in future years with any type of new bond at any capacity. We did have some assumptions there, looking at different growth in values, looking at the interest rates out there in the bond market. We put some buffer on that, and looking at anticipated state compression with the M&O side. So in option A, looking at $220 million, what I want to show here is the history as well of McAllen ISD from 2018 through 2026. McAllen ISD has utilized tax rate management in the past as well. As you want to see in 2018, 2019, you had zero INS tax rate. But that's not because you had zero debt. It's because of a balance. That's when the first Vader got approved in McAllen ISD. There was what's called a switch of pennies there onto the M&O side. So, and then recently in 24, 25, we've also utilized defeasance, which has paid off over $15 million in debt and saved interest of over a couple $1 million for the taxpayer as well. So that's been utilized in the last couple of years, and it will also, again, be utilized this year to maintain the tax rate. So moving forward, you see, well, I guess 27, 28, 29, with just maintaining a flat 13 cents. We see that on the INS side. And then the M&O, you see a downward compression. With the current law that we have today and the projected value growth that we have for McAllen ISD, with the math calculations, there will be future compressions on the M&O side. It's going from 80.22 this year to 78.71, 77 cents in 28, and 29 cents, 75 cents in 29. Ultimately, your total tax rate from the one that's being proposed today or in the future for this month for you to consider of 93.22 will actually drop to 88 cents in fiscal year 2029, and that's with a successful bond for $220 million. So you'll have a decrease in the overall tax rate. We will be setting this in two tranches. The reason for that is, as values grow, we want values to catch up, and that puts less pressure on the tax rate as well. So if this were to be considered for $220 million, we'll look at selling $100 million summer of 2026, and then another $120 million in the summer of 2027. So the same concept in option B, that little green line moved, but the same concept in option B is utilizing those 13 cents with 220, but going up and phasing it into 16 by adding a third tranche in the summer of 28 for an extra $70 million. I know that line got in the way there, but if you look at the same concept, your total tax rate from this year going from 93.22 over to fiscal year 29 to a total tax rate of 91.97. So still a projected overall tax rate decrease from what you currently have with an option of $290 million bond in the future. So the goal here would be, as compression continues, and we will monitor that year after year, we would sell, you'll get authority for either 220 or 290 million. You'll get that authority to sell. We won't sell it all at once, but we will sell it in tranches as the values increase and we're able to look at that compression from the M&O side. So in summary, both will be utilizing that 13-cent baseline tax rate that for your approval later on this month of 13 cents. Option A, if you were to move forward with the bond, just utilizing those 13 cents, and we would look at $220 million capacity. Option B, looking at phasing into the 1616, we'll still look at 290 million, but still both options will keep us below the total tax rate of this year of 93.22. So of 25.26 for.
Yeah, but I think what Dr. Los Santos is saying is the current tax rate that we
Yeah.
have is 99 cents.
Correct.
So what we are going to bring to the board later in September would be a decrease of 6 cents to 93 cents. All right? So that's what we're going to bring in. So there's going to be a reduction in the tax rate by 6 cents that we're going to approve for the 25-26 school year, from 99 cents to 93 cents. Just to summarize, if we want to keep it at that same level and a decrease for the next 3 or 4 years is then keep it at 13 cents, but we can only get a 220 million. If we want to phase in 3 cents over the next 3 years and still be less money, less taxes in comparison to what they're paying now, then by adding a penny for the next 3 years, then we can get the 290 million. But it will still be less taxes than what they're currently paying. And so that's just the summary of what you all said.
And one thing that we did not address here, but just even less, the extra homestead exemption increasing to 140,000 that should pass in November. So I mean, even though with just the tax rate alone going down from 99 cents to 93 cents, that extra 40,000 the homestead exemption will even decrease their taxes even further. And then we would maintain, moving forward with that option is considered maintaining that tax rate below 93 cents.
Okay.
Yeah. So in either option A or option B, for the funds that were generated, either the 220 or 290, what percentage of those would be allowed to use on construction facilities costs, and what percent would be allowed for maintenance and operations costs?
All of the bond projects would be up to the committee, the board to decide on.
Yeah.
But the full 220 or the 290 could be utilized for either new construction or fully renovations and upgrades. So it's not limited to a percentage, but you do have to list out your projects in the coming year, project by project, and the amount that's going to be utilized per project. So, but there's no percentage of this is for new construction, and you're restricted to use this for just maintenance and operations. It could be all one or a combination of either.
Okay.
Is there a limit on the propositions that you can put, that you can allocate per?
Yes, sir, and that's one thing that I did have there on the last slide. So moving forward, as you keep on discussing, I know you've been meeting with the facility assessment group and working with your committees. But yeah, we do have 6 different propositions that the district is restricted to putting on the ballot. If it's just going to be general construction for instructional facilities or renovations to instructional facilities, that will be under one proposition, which is that first proposition the construction acquisition, equipment of school buildings, purchase of new school buses, and purchase of sites. So that would pretty much encompass everything. If you're doing any renovations or new construction to a auditorium, that would be a separate proposition. If doing renovations or new construction to a football stadium, that would be a different proposition. Renovations or new construction to a performing arts, that would be a separate proposition. Technology, mobile devices, if you're going to do something just with mobile devices, that'll be separately as well. Also, teacher housing will also be a separate proposition as well.
Thank you.
A bond attorney will verify the projects or coincide with the proposition.
And then just on this language, is this language statutorily defined? Like, this is the language that we would have to use based on the nature of the projects, and there's no wiggle room on that?
It'll fall into these categories, and then the actual ballot, there is a statute on what needs to be on the ballot itself, and that's what we'll get from legal. So if it's just school facilities, it's a little bit, has a little bit more wording than just that one line.
Okay.
But yeah, there is a requirement to have.
And the dollar figures remain in each category. They can't criss or cross.
They can't
each
travel.
other.
Yeah, okay.
For the 290 million option, my understanding is we're taking, the phased-in approach is because we may be taking pennies from M&O to INS to increase up to 16, and that's based on future compression, tax rate compression. Is that currently in law, what you're projecting in compression, or is the legislature going to have to act again in 27 or 29?
That's from current law, and then in the new session, what we've seen in the last couple of sessions, they've actually added to that compression at a one-time basis, but maintaining that compression based on the overall state growth, which is pretty much 3%, and if you exceed that, that's when your compression starts occurring. But currently moving forward, that's what's been happening the last couple of sessions. The next session, it probably will maintain with the current law.
So if the legislature did nothing, the 290 million option would be...
We'll maintain, because there'll still be compression. If the legislature did nothing for this upcoming session, we would still have the current law still moving forward.
Right.
Thank you. All right.
We don't have to, decision tonight is just information of those two options, A or B, and something for us to think about as we move with the facility study and then the facilities forecast advisory committee. But by February the 13th, which is the last day to call on a bond for May, right? So something like this would have to be decided a couple of weeks prior to that and finalize a list of priorities and decide if it's 220 or 290, however we want to go about this.
And just one thing about tranches, those are not out of the ordinary. We do that with various issuers, like especially the county, the drainage. We have a couple $100 million. It's just very hard to move that many dollars that quickly. So you don't want to borrow for it unless you've got the time is ready to move dirt and ground.
No, it may be wise to make a decision much prior to February 13th.
Oh, yeah.
So that we can encapsulate whatever we're going to be talking to your committee about and any community groups that you're going to be sharing information with. Zero in on one, and that's what we take forward.
And what is y'all's recommendation?
It's really not ours, but we'll offer one.
I'm asking.
I mean,
I would say that we, I'm sorry. I would say that we've been talking with the community already. You've set a threshold of $290 million, and that's what we would recommend that you do so. Leaving $70 million on the table for less tax rate, throughout than you have right now, considerably less tax rate than you have right now, in my opinion, would not be a good decision. But that's what I said. It's your call.
Thank you. I tend to agree with you. I think we have a lot of needs that probably exceed $290 million bond.
Yeah, I was going to ask whether the committee has given you a number yet, and I'm sure it's going to be much larger than 290.
Oh, yeah.
and these are not fixed options, just want to add that as well. You know, we're providing these options there so you can see what the phasing could look like, and then what it looks like just staying at your INS rate. So, I mean, with your committees, you know, with your, as you proceed forward, I mean, if there's a different amount that wants to be considered, we'll definitely look into that as well.
So to that point, if we go with the 290 million option, that phase-in approach that you provided, is that we have to go that way, or we can do different numbers each year? Explain, can you elaborate on your comments?
We will be able to do different amounts per year, depending on what the compression is. So if I were to go back to that slide on 290, and you see here we were just looking at a compression of about $0.015, or 78, 71. If you have a larger compression in that year, we were able to sell more in that year as well, and maybe just do it in 2 tranches instead of 3. So it would depend on that compression. And as the tax rate is decreasing, you know, other options to look at, you know, we could look at just maintaining flat at 93.22 throughout the years coming through with these projections. But again, we're basing on projections that we have currently for the future.
And based on if compression or future actions, is there, if we adopt this option B, is there eventuality where we could exceed 290 million without raising taxes?
Without raising taxes, you still have there. I mean, without raising above that 93.22, you do still have that little capacity there because you will be dropping from 93.22 to 91.97. So there is an option there to consider of maintaining just projections flat 93.22 moving forward, and that would build a little bit more capacity over 290.
You'd have to go back to the voters again for another authority later, years later.
Right, because right now we would be seeking for a cap at 290.
Yeah, currently the cap is 290.
Is there a number at which y'all would recommend asking for authority above 290 where we wouldn't raise taxes, or is it 290?
No, that is an option. You could ask for authority over 290, and then as we proceed and it values, you know, you have greater values, we will sell only up to 93.22, so whatever our capacity is at that moment of time. So yes, or the other option would be looking at this option of 290 and then going back to the voters in 3 years and looking for seeing what our capacity is at that time, and then asking for the voters to come back for another 100, 200, whatever that might be. But yes, you could get authority. I mean, you could get authority to X amount and only sell up to, you know, 93.22 and year after year monitor that. So, and that's what a lot of the big urban areas, you know, you see those $1 billion bonds, $2 billion bonds out there. It's just that they have tremendous growth, and they know, and their values are going to increase 10, 20% at sometimes. And so they're selling as they go. And there's actually one example, I forget the district, but they had a 10-year projection to sell bonds over 10 years, and they got the authority over $1 billion. But that's just different options to consider.
You know, the authority is, the authority size of the bond is what you feel that your community can feel good about. You know, you go out there with $1 billion, like Angel says, the whole thing is gonna fail. But it's 290 something that is palatable to the community, or is 350 palatable, or less. I mean, it's just going to depend on. You all know your community much better than we do.
I think what we've been saying all along is that we're trying to maintain the same tax rate and then go up to 290. And if we are going to approve the tax rate later in September from 99 cents to 93 cents, and we maintain those 93 cents, then we still get the 290, and it's exactly what we've been saying all along. Except that in year 2029, it would drop a penny, which will be a savings. But what 290 shows the numbers is what we've been saying all along, is that we would maintain the same tax rate. Now, of course, the 220 drops it a penny or two for the next 3 years. But our needs are greater than 220, even greater than 290, but if we can take 290 and maintain the same tax rate, then we can be able to do more of our facilities that need a lot of improvement, because it's been 20 years that the last time that we made any improvements on our facilities.
I do have another question. I don't want you to try to predict the future, but if you have any line of sight into this, I would appreciate it. There is an increasing conversation in the state capital, around abolishing property taxes. If that were to come to fruition, what is your line of sight into how all of this works or doesn't, or is that a bridge too far?
Well, I know most of the discussion has been on the M&O component, and trying, and that's why you have the compression component as well in play. As far as the INS, I mean, I haven't heard, they're trying to limit on how much voter debt could be authorized.
Yeah.
That is one thing that's being discussed, but as far as doing away, because that's local control, local option by your constituents on voting on that debt. But there is discussion on that. But I mean, as far as the M&O, yeah, they're trying to do away with that, and how they're going to raise that revenue, that's the question. Who knows? But it could happen.
Yeah.
It's just,
Okay.
That's a lot of sales tax too.
yeah.
To generate.
Well, the conversations are increasing, so I have to agree with
As
Trustee.
I've seen it through the years, it's like, well, that's a wild idea, to, oh, now there's bills, to, oh, now there's items in a special, I don't know.
But even Florida dropped that, the Governor DeSantis, the legislature said we're not doing that.
So the homestead exemption would go up to 140, right?
140.
Correct.
And then, but there's also special provisions for 65 and older
Yeah, I
handicap?
think the seniors are about 200.
200?
They're going up to 50 from 10,000 to 60,000. So their total exemption will be the 140 plus the 60. So
So
they'll have a
200
total of 200,000
For
exemption
which population is
for
that?
65 and over.
65 and older. So there's even a bigger tax break for that group, for that age group.
And then they were frozen as well.
Correct.
Almost there.
Well, only the school taxes are frozen. Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And that exemption also just applies to school tax as well.
You're not 65.
No, I know. Hilarious. I
None
can
of
see
us-
it.
My daughter's age.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you, guys. Is there any more questions from the board? We look forward to having more discussions as we continue.
We have
I know
plenty of
it's
time to think
a long
about it.
process, but we're thankful to have you guys there. So, thank you, guys.
Glad
All
to be
good
here. Thank you.
information. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
His daughter and I graduated high school.
Okay, now I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
She was my
I
supervisor.
have a motion and a second by myself.
I'll second.
So, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Thank you.
We are
Dr.
adjourned at
Santos.
5:59.